When I picked up this game last night, I really didn't think I would be reviewing it already, but I have to be honest, I think I've played enough of it because I've basically beaten it. Well, sort of. I beat the base game on the base difficulty, but there is so much more to it than just that. Like, there's a lot of replayability in this game. But is it worth it? Is it good? Is this something that you're going to be interested in? I don't know. Let's talk about everything that is DawnFolk, but also there's a couple things I wanted to remind you about. One, you do have a chance to win $1 million. Two, please hit that like and subscribe button. Are those two things related? No, they are not. But just throwing it out there. Hey, you could win $1 million. Also, you should like and subscribe. You can control one of those options, and maybe that's the better option. I don't know. It's not for me to decide. Anyway, let's just get into DawnFolk. Anyway, so this is a game that I was really torn on. Now, I like the strategy, resource management, city builder type games. They're typically some of my favorites, and usually games that are really fun to get into, although they do require quite a bit of time, and it is almost like learning an entire new language. Like, there is so much you have to put into most of these games that even like an average play session can be, anywhere from 2 to 3 hours. And it really makes you think about where you want to spend your time with gaming. On the other hand, DawnFolk sells itself as a kind of pick up and play type experience where you're going to be able to pick it up pretty easily and play, but you're not going to be able to master it that easy. And these type of games often oversell themselves a little bit, especially to someone like me who enjoys that whole experience. Playing one of these games often makes me just wish I had played Civilization or something like that. Because a lot of these games typically are the free to play, gotcha type games where they promise, hey, it's like a city builder or something, and you're putting in some resources, but you're waiting on time and you're kind of managing all of that, and then they're never as in depth as you would like them to be. That was sort of my concern with this game, if I'm being honest, because really, any game that kind of has more of a strategic, in-depth kind of gameplay and then sells itself as being something that you can easily pick up and play, to me anyway, typically means like, oh, there's not a lot of depth in it. It just has some of the core mechanics of those type of games. And let's be honest, most of the games like this are typically those free-to-play mobile games, and you know that you're just being ripped off because they're just trying to get as much money off of you as possible. And this game is definitely not that, and it starts in a very interesting way, being with the story itself. As this game literally pits the player against darkness. As it is, you are able to build your own society, slowly growing it over time. Well, relatively quickly growing it over time. But what happens is, darkness shows up and will essentially cause these darkness storms that just wreak havoc on your world. Not only do you lose the resources at which that darkness is attacking, but you also have to usually combat that darkness because it'll continue to spread. Now, the one ways that you can do this is actually through one of your resources, which is essentially light, and it can be any form of light. And what I mean by that is something like the church, which is typically like spiritual, and that sort of light will typically provide the same amount of light as an actual lighthouse or something of that nature. There's also crystal fields, and they end up contributing to the light. So there's a lot of factors when it comes into that resource particular, and they don't really spell it out for you to say like rather this is a spiritual, kind of holy light or something, or if it's just light itself. But regardless, it all works the same in combating the darkness. And that is one of the fun aspects of this game, is you can be building up your city, your world, but you always have to be on the lookout for darkness. And I think that's something I really appreciate about the game and the story itself, because you actually do find out what is up with this. Why is this quote-unquote darkness following you around and trying to destroy your civilization? They go pretty deep into it, and it's really interesting. But darkness, light, those things aren't the only resources you need to worry about. No, you also have all of the standard stuff when it comes to food, production, people. All of those metrics are incredibly important, if not even more important to some extent than the light and darkness. Because while light does fight the main enemy in the game, you can't provide light if you don't have those other resources. And as it is, each resource ends up relying heavily on each other. You see, you can't build anything if you don't have production, if you don't have population. And so there is no point in even trying if you don't have those things, but those things won't grow unless you have food. And of course, this just turns into this big circular type of experience where you're trying to manage and keep all of your numbers up so that you can keep producing different infrastructure to help you grow. One of the cool things about this game, I have to say, is that while I wasn't super excited about it being incredibly basic, it's not. but what it does do is simplify a lot of things for you. A good example of this would be just like the crops themselves. You'll get to a field. Well, you can then start to turn that into farmland or cropland. Then you can change the type of crops that are in there. You also then can build a farm on an adjacent tile that will actually give you more production of food. And it's really interesting how each form of infrastructure starts off relatively simple, but then gives you different options. The nice thing about this is you don't have to be able to like go into these sub menus and figure out what you want to do with this space. No, like you can just grow crops, or you can put tents down for workers and your population to grow. And then at some point you can upgrade those tents to homes. Every time you level up, you'll get the option to be able to change one piece of infrastructure and get a science skill. Now, these science skills are incredibly important to bring about that change to your traditional piece of infrastructure, and then you can actually build on that from there on. So you're just basically unlocking an option. So let's say if you decide to build a tavern and use your science skill to unlock that, well, then you can build a tavern anywhere. And from there, you're just constantly growing your city out. This game does, like I say, sell itself as a 30-minute, hour experience. You don't have to have all day, but unfortunately, you will end up playing it all day because it is incredibly addictive. It gets you in that game loop, and it goes so fast that it just feels really satisfying to play and to build your civilization. Before you know it, you've killed a good 2 or 3 hours. And honestly, I think that speaks volumes to the type of game it is, but that's not the only thing about it. You see, as yes, it will keep you engaged, there's also a ton of replayability on it, especially considering this is a $14 game. Now, I purposely captured some of my images and some of the video that you'll see from early on before I unlocked anything, but I wanted to show you guys exactly how much can be unlocked in this just from the main menu, and then all the different biomes that you can unlock and play in. Not to mention the fact that there are quote-unquote secrets and different difficulty modes, and there is just so much to unlock. And a lot of these things can be unlocked by different crystals that you earn just from doing different achievements in the game. Most of them are relatively simple, and you don't even realize that you did them. The other good thing, and I would outright say maybe the best thing about this game, is it has different events that happen during your play session. For instance, if you have an ocean area, you can build like fishermen. Well, in one of my experiences, one of my fishermen went over and was like lost at sea. It gave me an option. Should we go search for him, which is going to cost resources, or should we just abandon him? Well, I, of course, searched for him. We found him, and then the game gives me another decision to make, a really difficult one. You see, because my abandoned fisherman was really beat up and needed medical attention badly, but we were also right near an incredibly rare ruin that no one has ever seen. So what do? Do you explore the ruin, get your resources out of that, maybe unlock more, maybe find more science points? You don't know. Or do you hurry up and bring your guy back and get him treated so that he doesn't die? This is just one example of the different events that will happen in the game. There are tons of them, and just with all of that combined and the price tag of $14.99, I would definitely advise picking this one up, especially if you like that type of gameplay. Even if you don't, I think you might be surprised by how much you enjoy this one. And again, there's just a lot of content there for the price. I think it's well worth it. Performance-wise, the game is great. I mean, it relies on some very like low poly kind of resolution, and the graphics are 8-bit maybe at best. And my point is you don't need the performance, but the performance is there. It never had any crashes, never had any issues like that. It's just a really great game. One that I definitely would say check it out. If I was going to give it a score, I think I would give it a solid 8.5 out of 10 if I'm being honest. But again, that's just my thoughts on DawnFolk. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. Have you checked this game out? Is this one you're interested in? Have you even heard of this game before? Anything and everything in that comment section is much appreciated. I love each and every one of you. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.